Well, I'm Ron Kramer. I'm an old friend of Gary Graham's, and Gary lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, and there's a big Arab horse show going on down there right now, and he's in the framing business. Actually, he's donated quite a few items in the past to the Cowboy Hall of Fame auction, and he's down there. Couldn't find anybody to run his business for him to come up here, but he's really regretful that he can't, because he wanted to be here. He really thinks it would be a great honor to be in the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and I think he deserves it. He was NDRA champion bull rider in 1966 and 1967. Gary was raised on a farm around Ray, North Dakota by his mother and his grandparents, and he was, I think in 1965 was the year, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, he went to a Bob Aberdwayne Howard rodeo school and really wanted to be a bull rider, and he worked hard at it. You can't take anything away from Gary's desire to win. He had a building on the farm, and he kept practice bulls around, and he rode bulls in that building all winter. And I got to know Gary in 1966 because I'd go out there in the winter and ride and get on practice bulls in his building. And the only advantage to that building from being outside was the sand in there wasn't froze quite as hard and the wind wasn't blowing, but if it was 20 below outside, it was probably 25 below in there because there was no sunshine in the building. But Gary always said he'd pull his own rope, kick the gate open, and he was his own bullfighter. So he said he learned how to stay on his feet if he hung up, because he had to get himself loose and take care of himself. But he told me in 1967 he got on right at 100 bulls that year between practice bulls and entering rodeos, and bucked off at 12. So it was no fluke that he was two-time NDRA champion bull rider. He could ride bulls pretty darn good. He went to a few RCA rodeos. It was the RCA back then, but he went to a few RCA rodeos, and I'm quite a few years younger than him, but I went with him to several of them early on, and he was always in the horse business. He was always in the Appaloosa horse business as well. They had Appaloosa horses on the farm at Ray, North Dakota, and he had a love for Appaloosa horses, and he developed a real good business in the Appaloosa horse business, and decided that was a better career for him to follow than the rodeo business was as he got into the early 1970s. And he built a very successful horse business, showed, I think, 15 world champions, sold horses all over the United States, he and his wife, and then moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and he's been down there for about 30 years running a business. He's always been a real strong-minded, dedicated kind of a guy, and to his tribute, he's won 2 gold medals in the Senior Olympics in marathon running. So he's ran marathons all over the United States and all over the world. But Gary was a good bull rider, rode bucking horses pretty decent too, but very adamant about rodeo, and still is today. When you go to the National Finals Rodeo, if you don't know who he is, he has a business booth at the Cowboy Christmas every year, and he's just a great guy, great ambassador for North Dakota, and a great ambassador for North Dakota Rodeo Association. I think Gary really deserves a hard look. He's up against pretty stiff competition with Dave Dahl, I know that. Both of them are very deserving. It's going to be a tough choice for you trustees, but take a hard look at Gary Graham, if you would, please. Thank you.
I don't know where that guy come from, but the Gary Graham I knew was from Manitou and Ross, North Dakota. But that's okay. He was a terrific bull rider. I rodeoed with him for quite some time, And then the government decided they wanted me over in Vietnam, so they let me go over there, and kind of ended my rodeo career. But in the meantime, Gary had won 2 state titles, and he could ride some rank bulls. So that being said, I think he definitely deserves, and we got a place for him in the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and I hope we can get him there. So let's just put our hearts together and put our X where we feel we gotta go. Thank you.